Life Unscripted with Kevin Shook.
When you are the judge, I want to do a spinoff of Night Court, the television show. I love that show. That's like one of my favorite. It's like on Prime, no, not Prime, Peacock. Yeah, on streaming Peacock.
Catch Life Unscripted with Kevin Shook on YouTube, Buzzsprout, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Candidacy is one of those things that it started from the whole process. It started from the idea that I could be the best judge, and I think that when we get to the level that we're at in our lives and our professional practice, that it becomes almost a mission to really show people what it's like to be an attorney, to deal with the day in and day out. And people ask me a lot of questions about what it's like to be an attorney and why ultimately I want to be a judge. So I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk with you.
Absolutely. I'm glad we could do this. And I know before this, we've been friends and I think we met at the club and at the country club. And so it's been cool seeing you around. And then I'm really excited about tonight, getting to know you more and ask you some questions, mostly questions based on your campaign. Yeah. So you're running for?
Yeah, I'm running for judge of Wayne County Superior Court number 1. Judge Todd announced his retirement at the end of December 2023. And when that happened, we were all really taken aback by it. We weren't really sure that he was serious. And then, when we got that email and we're just thinking, gosh, what a surprise. He's so young. He has such a vibrant courtroom that we thought that he had a lot more time, and we had a lot more time with him. But when that came out, I knew that I was going to run immediately. And it was one of those things where, I can help this community. I can help be a good judge. In fact, when Judge Colger retired and circuit court came available, that became a gubernatorial appointment. So the governor came in and made an appointment for that. I ran for that position. April Drake, who was the chief deputy prosecuting attorney, got that position. Now she's the honorable judge of Wayne Circuit Court. And when Judge Dolahanty decided to retire, that's a different court, downstairs court that handles things like family court and traffic court, small claims court, those kinds of things. Very administrative, very detail-oriented in some specific areas. That came available, and I decided that wasn't for me. And when Judge Todd announced his retirement, I decided, that's my niche. That's the areas that I practice in, and it fits really well with the things that I do. So when he announced that, I think we were all taken aback based on his age and things that we thought he had an opportunity to continue being a judge, but we certainly want to honor his time there and appreciate it. But for me, it was a real moment for me to say, I'm going to run, and this is my moment.
Okay. So backing up a little bit, you've mentioned, so you're running for Supreme Court. Superior Court. Okay. And that's why I'm asking you this. Supreme. I'm thinking about pizza.
That's right.
Superior Court 1, but then you mentioned Circuit Court and a few others. So how many judges does Wayne County have?
Yeah. So we actually have 4 judges. One is a judge of Circuit Court. And then we have 3 Superior Courts. There used to be a distinction. Historically, there was a distinction between Circuit Court and Superior Court. There's not anymore. There's some nuances regarding how retention is held, or whether, for example, and I don't really even know all the details because they've blurred over time. Okay. Those details might be that, for example, when Judge Drake took the job, she had to run immediately. Whereas now that Judge Mark Cox, is the judge of Wayne Superior Court 3, he actually gets to fulfill the remaining term of Judge Dolahanty, who retired. So the nuance there is that the Circuit Court judge has to run immediately. So again, but for the most part, all the courts in Wayne County are plenary courts or general jurisdiction courts. They can do technically anything, but we've parceled some courts out to do certain things. And the Superior 3 Court that the Honorable Judge Mark Cox is now the judge of, he handles things like traffic court, small claims court, family recovery court, juvenile court. So juvenile cases like whether it's Chin's case or juvenile delinquency, those kinds of things. He handles small, low-level criminal offenses like operating while intoxicated, driving offenses, batteries, misdemeanor court, essentially.
Okay.
So the Superior 3 court handles those. And then the upstairs courts are just, again, general jurisdiction courts. So they handle everything, you know, from probate, estate, adoption, family law, divorce court, paternity, child support, those kinds of things. So that court fits my practice style more than the Superior 3 court did. So that's the reason why I was trying to that's why I want to be judge of Wayne Superior Court 1, is because it fits my practice style almost to a T. And that's the court that I've practiced in significantly. So, but to answer your question, there are 4 judges, there's 1 magistrate, and there's 1 commissioner. The magistrate is the one who assists in Superior Court 3, and the commissioner assists with things like child support. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot I want to stay away from. I don't want to see any of these courts.
You know, that's the interesting thing about being in the courthouse is that the people who go there, they're not, quite frankly, they're not healthy, right? So something's wrong. People who go to the courthouse, there's something wrong. And that's where you want to stay away from, right? I mean, you don't go there unless you really need something. There's something wrong in your life. You've either been hurt or you've been accused of hurting someone, whether it's civil or criminal or however it is. And that's where the compassion and the passion for the law really has to come out in our judiciary. And we've been really fortunate over the years, and I've been in Wayne County for 27 years, that we've had an amazing judiciary, and we've had a lot of great opportunities to learn from these judges and to witness their grace that they've shown and their dignity in handling the courts and how that happens. And I know that that's an opportunity for me to continue that.
Well, that's good. Yeah. That's really good, because that's more of a non-traditional approach, I guess, is what you could say. And you see it on social media a lot with judiciary across Facebook, for the most part, but where, they believe in second chances, they believe in rehabilitation. People can be rehabilitated, that, if they did a crime, they might have to do the time, but they can also be rehabilitated onward. So, yeah, that's huge. And we have some questions coming up about that because it kind of ties in with mental health. Yeah. Mental health awareness.
Well, the interesting thing about that concept that you brought up is that the Indiana Constitution actually says these words. It says the criminal justice system is based upon reformative justice in the state of Indiana, not punitive justice. And when we really consider that, and when it's in the Constitution, that's a mandate. It's not. It means something. It's not just simply something we pander to, or we don't.
It's not a policy.
Seriously. It's not a policy. It's an obligation. And when we consider that, then those types of things mean something, in that we have to honor the concept that people can be rehabilitated, and that's what our judges over my years here have really done, and they've done a great job of it. Yeah. So I really, really have learned a lot from them, and I know that I believe in reformative justice, and I think that there's a fine line, right? I mean, you have to uphold the rule of law. You have to provide for safe communities. Those kinds of things are really imperative to make sure that, we live in a safe community. Mm-hmm. It's really simple to say. Absolutely. It's simple to say, but every case is different. Every case requires you to have an opportunity to review what they are, what the person who did it, what is it that they need? Right. And, sometimes it's mental health. Sometimes it's that they need to be locked up.
Absolutely.
And there's got to be a fine balance there.
And it seems like just recent, through the past couple of years, and that's where kudos to these judges and attorneys for doing this, but where people have gotten released and then murder somebody. Yeah. I just seen a case over on the west side of Indiana where that just happened. Yeah. And some of them was and they were just slip ups where they weren't supposed to be released. So it's kind of like, oh shit, what happened? So I feel like there's probably a lot of pressure on you guys because you're the deciding factor on their fate.
It's really an incredible process. Let me back up. When I first came to town in 1997, at that period of time, there was a discussion and we rewrote the criminal justice local rules. Okay. And the local rules needed to be revamped. And we talked about how we could deal with this exact concept. So one of the things that I was involved in was rewriting the bond schedule, the amounts of that people would have to pay in order to get out. And we separated into different areas: personal crimes, crimes against people, right? Whether it's a battery or a rape or a murder, right? Those kinds of things. So crimes against persons. Then we separated out crimes against property. So whether there was, breaking and entering, or burglary, things like that, theft, crimes against property. And then we had crimes that were drug crimes, right? And once you recognize the distinctions between them and understanding, again, whether or not the offender is the nature of the offense and the character of the offender, and whether they were a flight risk or a danger to the community, that's how we were able to say, okay, based on this level, based on this crime, based on their connections to the community, we knew where bail should be. And that enabled us to really fine tune and again, I was a young attorney at the time. I'm not going to claim that I was an instrumental part of it, but I did write that portion of it by putting in the certain numbers and the dollar figures. And the judges aren't obligated to follow that.
Right.
But it's something that at least put into perspective that we're going to look at each case individually. Again, whether they're a danger to the community and a flight risk. So those are primarily the concerns. And just a few years ago, our Indiana Supreme Court came out and said, hey, look, we need to have truth it's kind of like a truth in lending, right? A truth, when we're talking about different areas, with this truth in sentencing, truth in everything, for these transparency, so that we can have a distinct application of the law to each individual case. Well, about 2 years ago, the Supreme Court came out and said, well, look, we're going to have a truth in bonding, truth in bail reform. And what they've done is they've required, at a time of arrest, when someone goes to the jail, our probation department will go over and do an interview with them. And that interview process is a discussion regarding their prior criminal history, their ties to the community, whether they have current pending cases, so that information then gets translated to the courts. And it's usually done fairly quickly. Sometimes it's not filled with much information. But if as long as that's done, then our judges get to make good decisions regarding, again, same things, ties to the community and how much of a danger to the community they are. So that gives the judges an opportunity to look at the facts of the case and really apply the law to their case, so that you have people who aren't getting out and hurting people. Right. Whether they're, in our country as an undocumented person, right?
Absolutely.
So that we know that in that case, they're not tied to our community. Their bond might need to be higher in order to provide for a safe community, and we uphold the rule of law. And when that's the case, we have to be armed with the information, right? And our processes are really dynamic to be able to start to deal with these kind of things. Again, in 1997, it was just, okay, we know you were charged with a crime, and this is the bond schedule, and this is how we're going to categorize it, and this is what you need to pay for bond.
Like a graph chart.
Exactly.
Bingo.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So we have the opportunity to require bail bondsmen, but bail bondsmen aren't really prevalent anymore. I'm not sure that we even have a bail bondsman here locally.
They just make good TV shows.
Exactly.
Dog the Bounty Hunter.
You get Dog the Bounty Hunter out there after you got to show up.
That'd be wild.
Yeah. So those kinds of things, and having a cash bond versus a bail bondsman, again, the more serious the offense, the more danger to the community there is, the more of a flight risk they are, then you can require things like a bail bondsman. There has to be someone capable of going out and getting you. And bringing you to court, so that when somebody's an undocumented alien, they're now out in the wind in Chicago, or out, they've committed an offense here and now they're released, but now they're hanging out in LA somewhere where they're, lost in the crowd. We'll never find them.
There was an incident in Indianapolis. It's all in the news. I've seen it on the news, so it has to be real, right? Anyway, so I guess this guy, it was a hit and run case downtown College in Mass, and they found him trying to board a plane, and that's when they caught him.
Yeah.
And, but they still, so after I guess he went, he had his initial hearing, or they still granted him, they said, yeah, you can go back to your, I think it was Texas or something, but we're pulling your passport and stuff like that. So, they probably did it probably took a lot of analyzing to figure out exactly how much leeway to give this person and how much leeway to not give this person.
Yeah.
So there's a scale there, and that would be hard to be the deciding factor on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they probably took into play, like, is this his first time offense, or does he hit people every weekend, or doesn't he, you know what I mean? So it's interesting.
Judges make these calls every day, and it takes a good legal acumen and strong character, strong personality to be able to make those decisions. And, that's what we've had in Wayne County. We've been blessed by it. We've been
very cool.
Yeah, it's a nice opportunity.
And that wraps up today's episode of Life Unscripted with Kevin Shook. If you enjoyed our conversation, make sure you tune in right here on YouTube next Sunday for part 2 of our exciting adventure. But hey, if you're always on the go, don't worry, we've got you covered. You can also find part 2 on all your favorite podcast platforms. Whether you're commuting, working out, or just relaxing at home, you can keep up with us wherever you are. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring even more amazing content your way. Thank you for listening to Life Unscripted with Kevin Shook. And remember, stay curious, stay excited, and stay tuned. We'll see you next Sunday for another thrilling episode. Until then, keep exploring and keep dreaming. Life Unscripted with Kevin Shook.